This is Back Roads of Illinois, server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois, and today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We're bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We're glad you're here on a Tuesday afternoon. I am Cesar Delgado. I am your host of today's program. I am back from 3 days weekend after the crazy weekend reports. Trade deficit for last week. Well, the farmers are uncertainty with American ag products in Canada, Mexico, especially with China. The grains markets are challenging to be pretty tough with export to China and India, Vietnam. The cotton markets for right now, however, in central Illinois do not grow cotton, but in the south compared to Illinois. There is uncertainty with ag markets for sure. Okay, we will have a conversation about the cattle markets with these prices. While it's pretty high at May 292 for the feeder cattle. We were talking about it with Scott Verilek from Kooima Evielk Trading. Then I am joining with Mike Seyfried from the National Feed and Grains Association. Mike is the president of the National Feed and Grains Association. Welcome to him on the show. Otherwise, this is your rural news sponsored by AgriGold. This week is having the world supply and demand report from USDA. Many traders are concerned about the demand for soybeans trend, especially with these prices for grains markets. The National Port Council is going to be in Washington, D.C. for flying in on this week about the farm bill and the labor situation in right now with the trade deficit as well. Finally, in Wisconsin, legislation to be focused on the 45Z for biofuel pump for the state of Wisconsin. That's your rural news. We'll have a conversation on Back Roads of Illinois about the cattle markets with Scott Verilek from Kooima Evielk Trading. Otherwise, how are you today, Scott?
I'm doing well. It's been a challenge lately with the markets, but big picture, I myself am doing well. My family's doing well. So let's look at those things first for sure. But yeah, markets is the one thing that's been a little bit of a challenge lately.
Good to hear that. Let's discuss about the cattle markets with these prices for right now. How is the fundamentals for right now?
Yeah, the prices have been very wild, to start out with that. It's we were at a market that was at record highs, and when it started to collapse, things happened very fast. And now we're all kind of out of breath, wondering, okay, what can we look at? What can we stand on? And it's the unfortunate part that the fundamentals have been in the back seat because fundamentally we're feeling okay. Uh, the strength of the cash market and the demand has been there, has been backing up some of these high prices, and it still is, at the front of the market here. We've got packers that need some cattle. We've got grilling season right around the corner, and we've got some tighter numbers. I think those are three things that are really going in our favor right now. So if we could stand completely on that, I would feel a lot better about it. I still think we have some tighter numbers going ahead into the spring. That's going to be a little bit of time before we get to that calf crop, which, that end of May, middle of May, we start to see some of those numbers. But producers have some leverage and hopefully we can use it. I think when we have these volatile weeks, we're waiting on that cash market to see what's going to happen. Some of the feeder prices still sound like they're pretty good and holding strong as of right now.
How is the reflection on the front month on the technical side, Scott?
The technical side, I think the last part of this rally, we it happened pretty fast. It happened, it was a steep rally. The funds were behind it, and now we've seen the funds pull back. So we have a little bit of room that we could actually break and still be on an uptrending market. I mean, I think it just kind of says that's how strong this cattle market has been, how fast has it has moved higher. So it still can afford another, few dollar break here. I mean, we could probably see 188 to 190 on the front month and still be on a long-term uptrend, which is a little bit scary because when we were just trading 215 cash and now we're trying to decide if we're going to hold 188, uh, it's shifting gears really fast. And so I think it was an overbought market that shot pretty hard. So now we've corrected some of those signals, but it's not how you draw it up. I mean, you don't want to see a market break that fast. It is going to make everybody nervous. We're going to see a lot of panicking, but still have some support coming up within the next $4. And we're hoping we can get back to a cash is king kind of market. So far, technicals, long-winded answer just to say I think we're okay yet. We've got some damage on the charts, but some of the long-term stuff is still saying we're okay. We don't want to see those start to break because we're still at high levels, and there is room on the downside of the chart if we ever do start ticking out some of those long-term trend lines.
Sure. The Dow Jones was down yesterday. What is your thoughts on that?
Dow Jones and the S&P, the outside markets have been, one of the leading factors of what the cattle market has traded, what a lot of these commodities have looked at, but we've almost become just a sister commodity just the last few days to the stock market. That when the stock market started to break here, uh, later last month, the cattle were not that worried about it. We were still trading our own fundamentals, that things were okay. But here lately, the tariff wars picking up, just the stock market really breaking this fast. No market has been able to ignore as fast as the stock market has dropped. So now there's that uncertainty of how is the consumer doing, or are they able to get through these times? Well, what status are they at? Is the demand in jeopardy? Just a lot of that uncertainty. So funds have been pulling money out of a lot of the different markets, and cattle are one of them. So as you come in a morning where the stock markets are a bunch higher, the cattle are able to open higher. But if that stock market goes down, we start to slip as well in the cattle futures. So unfortunately, we're very tied to it. So what we feel like we know about cattle and how to trade cattle and what the cattle news is, we're just really stuck on what the stock market is doing.
It is tight down with the cattle markets with the stocks markets.
It's bit of what the trade war is happening right now.
Scott, what happened to the cattle expansion for this point? Do you recommend for LRP insurance by the herd shrinking?
Yeah, the expansion has been, expected that we would see, this cow herd start to grow, see some of these heifers pulled back for heifer retention, and it uh, it didn't happen on the January 1 report, not as fast as we thought. I do think it is starting to happen now. There is some evidence saying that some of these heifers are being brought back to the cow herd, but probably not as swift as some talk. From 2014, the old record highs, to 2015, we started keeping heifers quick. I mean, it was
Do you recommend for anything with your clients for right now?
I think we're having to track the outside markets very close. We have to suddenly now become experts on what's coming out of Washington, D.C. So that's where our focus kind of turns. But it's trying to buy cattle right as well. We get some tighter numbers in the north, and we've got we have to turn towards some southern numbers, to fill some of those empty pens. But we've got video auctions coming up for some of these fall feeders, and I think that's a big question is, okay, what do I do for next fall? I'm going to buy some feeders for next fall's delivery. What do I do? Um, I would love to say, yep, sign on, stamp it. I want to make sure I have some around me, but I can't just go out and just buy them all in one big swing because it's just so much risk. So making sure we're buying smart, we're looking at some, what we can do for protection and knowing that we probably should be looking for something. We might just have to think a little bit outside of the box. So I want to be dabbling in feeders. I don't want to do all my eggs in one basket. So I'd be just be careful when we're shopping around for feeders this spring.
Do you have any final thoughts about the cattle markets with trade issue?
The tariffs themselves, in fact, don't probably affect the cattle near as much as some of the other markets. I mean, we're a country that's a net importer of beef. We import about twice as much beef as we export. We import feeders, we import fats. We get imported from all sectors. So the tariffs themselves actually are friendly cattle, in my opinion, because it could slow some of that down. Now, Canada and Mexico haven't been quite as much in the tariff turmoil in the last round here, but they're ultimately still in, some of this battle on the tariffs. So uh, it's not so much just the tariffs, what they're doing to affect the cattle. It's what's doing to our economy. That's what's putting the risk on the cattle and why maybe they didn't open their eyes to it fully at the beginning, but once the stock market really kept going lower, 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 we couldn't ignore it any longer and had to kind of trade with the stock market.
Thanks, Scott.
No, thanks for having me.
We've been talking with Scott Verilek from Kooima Evielk Trading on today's program. This is your commodities markets for today, sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. May corn is up at 3 to 5 cents. July corn is up at 4 to 6 cents. May beans are up at 5 to 10 cents. July beans are up at 3 to 8 cents. Kansas City wheat is up for today. KC May wheat is up at 9 to 6 cents. KC July wheat is up at 4 to 8 cents. Chicago May wheat is up at 9 to 10 cents. Chicago July wheat is up at 4 to 5 cents. Let's take a look for the livestock markets. April cattle is up at 3 to 4 cents. Front month will begin for this Friday. June cattle is up at 9 to 5 cents. May feeder cattle is up at 3 to 4 cents. July feeder is up at 4 to 8 cents. April hogs is up at 3 to 5 cents. June hogs is up at 4 to 5 cents. This been your commodities markets for this afternoon. I'm going with Mike Seyfried from the National Feed and Grains Association. What an honor to have you for the show on today. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Mr. President, we have to know you're the president of the National Feed and Grains Association. Let's discuss about yourself and your organization as well. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. Why don't I start with National Grain and Feed Association first? So we are a national association founded 129 years ago that represents the grain trade. Basically, our membership represents from the country elevator where the farmer delivers their crop all the way through the chain to export elevators, ethanol plants, biofuel plants, soy crush facilities, flour millers, integrated livestock and poultry feeders, and feed manufacturers. We also have a number of affiliated industries that are members as well, including all the Class 1 railroads, a number of barge and shipping companies, trucking companies, and a number of equipment and technology providers and brokers to the industry as well. So we really do, we're a very broad-based organization that does represent the full chain that's involved with moving grain and feed in the U.S. and transforming America's harvest. Me personally, I serve as president and CEO. I've been with NGFA just over 4 years. Prior to that, I spent 7 years working for a ag chemical company, FMC, doing their government industry affairs in North America. And prior to that, I spent 16 years living on or working on Capitol Hill, including for Senator Pat Roberts of Kansas, including 2 years as his staff director on the Senate Ag Committee. But I am a farm kid at heart, grew up on a farm in Kansas, 4th generation, married a 6th generation farm girl from Georgia. We still own much of the farm, half the farm in Kansas, and are actively engaged in that. So I'm a farm kid at heart, and most important, I mentioned my bride. I'm husband to a beautiful lady named Christy and 2 great daughters, one who's a freshman in college at Tennessee and one who's a junior in high school and looking at what her next step in life's going to be. So that's real quick, NGFA, and a little bit about myself as well.
Do you guys work with the corn and beans farmers in the Midwest, like in Illinois, Iowa, Indiana?
We do, absolutely. In fact, I think our state for the largest membership of members is Illinois, or number 2, and a number from Indiana as well. Obviously, producers are our members' customers, and we represent both private and commercial companies and co-ops. It's about a 55-45 split. And so work closely with those producers, those groups, our member companies do. And then here in the nation's capital, where I'm based with NGFA, we have a very strong working relationship with all those producer groups that you mentioned, American Soybean Association, National Corn Growers Association, in particular. Work very well, very closely with them. My policy team, our policy team at NGFA works closely with theirs, and I know both of their CEOs and work closely with them as well.
Really? That's awesome.
They're a great group to work with.
Mike, what is your top priority for right now with the Farm Bill and especially the commodities markets for grains farmers?
Sure. Our priority right now, obviously, prices have been low. The economy, our ag economy overall, not just on the farm, but throughout the chain, has softened. And we want to make sure that we strengthen the whole ag and rural economy. From a Farm Bill perspective, NGFA very interested in a decoupled commodity title that doesn't influence planning decisions, and I think that's very much what both the House and Senate committees have been looking at. Obviously, producers are asking for higher reference prices, and I believe NGFA is supportive of that and maintaining the strength of the crop insurance program. We're also very interested in focusing on working lands programs and not programs that are going to completely take land out of production, as CRP often does. And then we're very supportive of expanded funding for the trade promotion programs, market access program, and other programs through the Farm Bill that we think are very important to helping promote U.S. ag products, farm products in the international marketplace.
Do you have any concerns about these trade barriers for our grains to other countries?
Sure. Absolutely. We have many concerns with what we would consider non-tariff or phytosanitary barriers to trade. We do think that there are obstacles that have been set up in Europe and other countries to make it more difficult for us to be able, and for U.S. producers to be able to ship our products. And certainly that is always a concern. We're very supportive of open trade. That's part of our mission statement is open and free trade, and we also want fair trade that gives us a level playing field and gives us a full opportunity to be able to sell products on behalf of U.S. producers.
What is your final thoughts on the Farm Bill for this Congress?
I think strong commitment to getting a bill done by the members of the committee, and particularly the chairs of the two committees, G.T. Thompson in the House, John Bozeman in the Senate. I think also the ranking member in the Senate, Amy Klobuchar, and Angie Craig in the House. I think strong desire by them and their committee members to get a bill done. I think it's going to continue to be tough. There's still a lot of funding issues, and many of the issues from last Congress have still got to be worked out. And there's also a lot of discussion of what's going to happen with the reconciliation bill, which is basically the tax and spending bill that's being considered on the House or on the Hill, and what will happen with SNAP and nutrition programs in that, and also what's going to happen with the commodity title of the Farm Bill. Will anything be done related to reference prices through reconciliation? Is that an avenue to try and get part of it done? But what does that mean for the rest of the bill? I think those are very much open questions. I think, as I said, a strong desire by what we call the four corners of the House and Senate Ag Committee leadership and the members of the committee to get a bill done. But I think a lot of what the timeline, what the final path forward is going to look like in terms of how they do that, a lot of that's going to be decisions of the congressional leadership, and what they want to include in that reconciliation bill, and what do they not want to include in that reconciliation bill. And so I think we're just going to have to kind of wait a bit longer and see how that thinking plays out. But it is not going to be easy. It's going to continue to be a challenge either way. But I think the desire is absolutely there. But as I said, by all four of the leadership on the two committees to get this done and to do it in a bipartisan way, if at all possible.
Are you watching about the funds issues for right now?
Yes, certainly there are some the funding issues in the Farm Bill, and then I know there have been some funding issues on some of the contracts, on some of the programs at USDA. I understand that is something that USDA has been taking a look at, and that some of those funds have been released. But I know there's other programs that are still under review, and that producers and other groups have an interest in. Now we at NGFA have not been directly impacted by that, but certainly some of the producer groups we work with and some of the member companies we have that are involved with different projects, I know that is something that they've been trying to work through as well.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Happy to visit with you.
This is the president of the National Feed and Grains Association with Mike Seyfried on back roads of Illinois. Thanks to Scott Verilek from Kooima Evielk Trading for today, and Mike Seyfried from the National Feed and Grains Association. This been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. You have a good day.